let's start from the beginning. So they were there when?
The Phoenix Project was in a time bubble.
Okay.
So they could have been put there at any time,
Mm-hmm.
and they could have been, it could have been 1940 for
Right.
them, or it could have been 2015,
Mm-hmm.
because they're in a time bubble.
Yep.
Okay. Now, some of them were born in the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were born this century. The one in particular, John Whitberg, was born, he's what, 22, 23? But he remembers being in Montauk in the 40s because it's in a time bubble.
So he was taken back in time.
He was taken back in time, has lived an entire lifetime as this other life, and then popped back into this time.
Mm-hmm. So he was that valuable to them then.
Yes.
Okay. So time-wise, because they're outside of time, they can operate and they can take anyone to any time point. And I guess
Yes.
the time point's purpose is we don't know it. We don't really know why they would take you back so far.
Well, the CIA, when they had control, they were working to enhance their own power structure.
Mm-hmm.
So they would take out individuals that brought them down or
Okay.
caused them trouble.
Right. The
So
butterfly people.
the butterfly people that were bothering them.
Yes, exactly.
So there were a lot of missions that were simply to take out people that bothered the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't always in the United States. So a lot of the people that simply dropped dead in history, because this technology can go back thousands of years.
Okay, but the question is there a limit to what they can do to a being? Like, it sounds like there's an element of freedom, like there is a range of things they can do with you, but they cannot. So they can manipulate you somehow, but there's still a part of you that should, live this life or something, right?
They explained it to me that they had created me in the womb by doing a genetic modification, that I was not a normal human,
Yeah.
that I was their creation, that they owned me like a truck, and that they were going to use me however they wanted, as long as they wanted.
Okay. So that's their disposition.
That's their
in life.
underlying philosophy. Yes.
I see. So they supposedly see no limits in what they can do, right?
They only see the limits of physics in what they can do, and I swear sometimes they rewrite physics.
Okay. Okay, so we have the Montauk timeline, which is very strange because the official packaging of the timeline, according to Preston Nichols and others.
He says there were only boys there too.
Yes, it was the Montauk Boys. It all began in it all began back in the 40s and 30s, the research, but then the Project Phoenix and Project Rainbow, somehow they were like twin. One was about physics, one was about
one fed
consciousness.
into the other.
Right.
And Project Rainbow was about time travel and teleportation.
Yep.
And they found out that the same technology be applied with the use of psychic abilities to do other things.
Yep.
And that each asset, that's what they called us, each asset's particular psychic abilities would do a different thing with the technology.
Okay.
So because I bilocate, I would go places that they didn't even know existed. Joe, for your audience, I don't know if they know about Joseph Powell or not. I've
Hmm.
interviewed him several times. His ability was that he would enter the body of someone that was already there and basically possess them. There are other people who went. There were probably 500,000 children who went through the Phoenix Project, and at least 2/3 died in it. And there was an interview out where Al Bielek talked about that he personally had killed 300,000 boys. And they never acknowledged that they also had girls there, but they did. There were as many girls as boys there.
Yeah. So we'll come back to Al Bielek in a bit. So the timeline that they present in the Montauk projects, I think it was the Experiments in Time, the book, and the interview, is basically about 1970-ish. The Brookhaven scientists and the military strike a deal to do this research together because the Congress supposedly turned it down, saying crowd control and mind control is not what we are into. So they supposedly went to the military and said, okay, we can do this in secret. So where can we do this? We needed to be close enough to the Princeton and MIT and the Brookhaven. And the military supposedly said in 1970, oh, we have this derelict base in Camp Hero. Do you want to try this one? But according to your testimony, that was going on. I mean, the project was going on there since way back, right? It's not like
it's been going on for a long time.
It's not like they moved in the 1970s and said, okay, we need to polish it up and there's nothing here, it's empty.
I think what you would have in the 1970s is the new boss moving in.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Because in the video, he goes around the facility and he shows some electrical equipment from the 50s and computers from the 60s and other things. And he said, okay, this is clearly from the 50s. This is clearly from the 60s. And you would think, okay, so if you guys moved in what, 70 something, so what was here? And all of that stuff was not just regular, what was it? The gun range equipment. It was computers and electronics and everything.
In World War II, Camp Hero had been a radar range to protect the tip of Long Island from the Nazis. And it's amazing because there was a German submarine base below Camp Hero. And
so it was a total cover then.
And there is still something happening there because Eric Hecker, who we've talked about, has all these files from the water company. The water company on Long Island is putting out thousands of gallons of water. Hundreds of thousands of liters in a place that's supposed to be empty.
Yeah.
So what are they doing with it?
Yeah.
They're billing the federal government for it.
And the government knows. Someone knows in the government, right?
Someone there knows because they're paying the water bill.
Sure, and not just the water bill.
They're paying the power bill.
Yes. Yeah, there's power there that he had identified as being, too powerful for a derelict state park facility.
Exactly. There's something going on there still. So, there's a lot of stuff that we will never get to the bottom of from the outside.
The surface operations The primary system was shut off, sabotaged, and put out of operation on the night of 12 August 83. But
Yeah, everything went underground.
But everything else underground was not affected. When it went down, they came in and sealed off with concrete all of the underground entrances in the various buildings. They had to demolish a few buildings to do this, where there were staircases going down, and to put a plug in the elevator shaft in the radar building also.
You also got to remember that there's not just on the base itself, in the buildings. It's not just where you can access underground.
They wanted to make it appear like the entire base was abandoned.
There were other entry points.
There are other
Yes.
entry points.
There were other entry points which were left active.
I mean, I would imagine that some of these entry points would have had to be rather huge to truck in the food and the supplies that needed to be put in there on a daily
Usually that
basis.
went in on the elevator and the radar shaft. The
But
radar
that was
tower.
gone.
But there's also underground passages that they can truck that stuff in.
Yeah.
Now, we have heard mention that there are a whole series of underground tunnels,
That's correct.
and
All over Long Island, and there are interconnections with these artificial tunnels on the underground rail system, which go all over the United States.
Now, I know a bunch of these guys that had been part of Project Phoenix were there last summer. And they were there for about a week, and they did some rituals for the dead, funerary services.
Mm-hmm. To send them to the light.
Put their souls at rest and to kind of clear the space. And they did some forgive each other, forgive ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And since most of the perps are dead, they chose to forgive them as well.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that aren't will never get a conviction. So there's no point being angry. I would like to see the truth come out, but I'm not going to hold my breath. And we're never going to get justice. I mean, it's just not going to happen. They will never come forward with the truth if they are worried about justice hanging over their heads. So reality is the best we can hope for is that someone on his deathbed decides to tell the truth. And in the meantime, those of us who survived it are telling our stories.
So speaking of, telling the truth, you said that Al Bielek confessed, or he just said it in passing?
He just said it in passing in one of his interviews that they had killed 300,000 boys at Montauk.
Not him personally, but the organization that was there.
The group that he was part of, and he admitted to being their director at the time.
Oh my God. Do you think he was in another altar or something back then?
I think he didn't even realize he said it. It's one of those things, I heard it come out of his mouth and I was just like, oh. And I've been looking for the video and I haven't been able to find it for the last year, so I'm pretty sure that it got deleted.
But they assigned me to a particular part of the program involving the indoctrination of the younger recruits, we'll put it that way. And after, let us say, one of the first attempts at indoctrination, which turned out to be a total disaster, I said, there's no way I will have any part of this program, no matter what you do or say. So they said, oh, yes, you will. And I said, well, no, I won't. So they put me in front of this roasting oven, if you will, the mind beam, and it did do damage to me. And finally somebody else said, shut it off. He isn't going to give in to it. I suffered some damage, but not severe damage as some others did. And it did affect me to some extent. Duncan was affected much more heavily for other reasons. But nevertheless, the effects were, in some cases, totally disastrous. They burned brains out and the people just dropped dead. Now, neither of us were among those category, but there were other recruits, young kids they picked up, you might say, off the streets, wherever they could find them. The basic age bracket was between 12 and 16.
So that's where a lot of the disappearing
Yes.
kids
So
disappeared.
10,000 we estimate went to Montauk. The total number would be about 250,000 with the 25 stations estimated.
So he was director of the project for a while? there?
He was director of the project, working with Preston Nichols and Duncan Cameron.
Okay. And Duncan was also not a regular participant. He was more.
Duncan started off being a regular participant and was promoted. The same thing happened with Stuart Swerdlow.
Swerdlow, okay.
He started off being a kidnapped boy and was promoted.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people that get Stockholm syndrome. And from what I can tell, Stuart Swerdlow has spent the rest of his life since trying to make amends. So I don't have ill will against him.
Okay.
But Preston Nichols, after it was closed down, he had a process that he used to help the boys get their memories back that involved raping them again. So he never repented.
What process?
He put them back in the state of mind that when it happened, so that they would get their memories back, and it involved him raping them again.
That's what I'm asking. Do you think they were mind controlled heavily themselves?
Some of them were.
Because it sounds like it. Like when you look at them, they don't come off as,
Normal.
No, they don't. I mean, they don't come off as, being, crazy psychopaths, right? But they might.
There's an edge to all of them. There, if you feel into them, there's an edge that isn't normal.
So the reptilian, what was their interest in your time and in their time?
The reptilian, in my case, he was interested in finding what he called interesting assets.
Mm-hmm.
He was looking for kids with abilities that were rare even among his people. And since they had been DNA modifying us with different things, the CRISPR tech is not new. It was around then, but they were still learning how it worked. So it didn't always do what they meant for it to do. And they were told what to do. They had samples of various ET's DNA, and they were supposed to insert it at certain points. But depending on what the human DNA at that point already was, they might end up with something really different.
Okay.
They did not expect to get a navigator. They were shocked when I turned out a navigator. That's someone who can go through different dimensional realities and take 3D physical objects with her.
Okay. So that was not intentional. It was by accident.
They thought they were going to get a telepath. And I may very well have been one anyway, because it does run in my family. But me being able to go interdimensional and take objects with me was something they did not expect. And they didn't even realize what they had until the turtle man pointed it out to them.
Oh, I see. So he was also keeping it to himself.
Well, he was I keep saying that extraterrestrials and interdimensionals all have an agenda of their own. And you have to know what that agenda is before you know whether you can trust them or not. Anybody who just goes through and says, oh yeah, ETs are good, you're naive. Anyone who says ETs are all bad is living in paranoia. Most ETs are remarkably like us. They have a self-interest. They know what it is, and they work in accordance with it. And if what you need is in accordance with what they want, they're going to help you. If it's not, you're on your own. And God help you if what they want is opposed to what you want, because they're smarter than you are.
So the Montauk monster, it's unclear in their testimony, in the Montauk people testimony, whether it was, Preston Nichols, I think, says it's Duncan took it out of his subconscious. And then they also say it was a Bigfoot. Supposedly this was the origin of the Demogorgon story, that, he broke out from that dimension. But now I see that the Demogorgon deal was part of the whole upside down story. So did you guys bring anything, any creature from there? Were you supposed to bring anything from there, or anyone?
No, I wasn't supposed to bring anyone.
Okay.
I made a telepathic contact with the person I was reporting to and showed him what I had experienced.
Mhm.
And it scared the bejesus out of the man. And from that point, he did not want us to bring anything back from there.
But what did you bring back?
I brought back memories.
Oh, that was enough. Okay.
That was enough. I brought back memories. And it scared him, first off, because he didn't think any of us, the assets, had the ability to go into his head and
Right.
show the experience. I showed him the Demogorgon eating lizards, and I showed him the thing running after me, and that it was faster than I was, and if I hadn't blinked back, that it would have gotten me.
Hmm. And he got your vibe about it.
I'm really good at projecting terror.
Okay.
That one, he didn't expect to get the feels.
Right.
He didn't expect the emotional impact to be that intense. He didn't realize any of us had that ability. Shoot, I still have that ability. I came into the doctor's office about a year ago. It's after a neurologist had threatened me with life in a wheelchair. And I came back into my primary's office and I was having a flat panic attack. And she walks in and she says, "What's going on?" I go, panic attack. And she goes, "I see that. What are we going to do about it? You have to calm down." And I go, "Really? So I made the effort and got back under control. And she says, "Good." And I said, "What happened?" And she says, "We felt you all over the whole building." So yes, whatever I have told my doctor in the past, she now believes. My primary did her training in San Francisco. A lot of SSP super soldiers are dumped off in San Francisco first. So I'm sure I'm not the first she's encountered. I mean, she didn't tell me to go away, so I guess she's handling it okay.
So who do you think, or what do you think Junior, this monster, was? They say it's from like the subconscious of Duncan in one instance, and then they say it's probably, they call it a Bigfoot.
In the group of kids, they're all in their 40s now, the group of guys that I've been interviewing, they were there. Okay.
At the time.
They were there at the time. They were part of this process. They say it was an altar came forth and manifested the most horrid thing he could imagine.
Okay.
And that it sort of resembled a Bigfoot, but wasn't. It was from his own fears.
Okay.
and that it attacked everyone he was afraid of.
The person was afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That it attacked everyone the person was afraid of.
And it probably killed a bunch of people there.
Probably.
Uh-huh.
I've done 2 roundtables with these guys, same group of guys. Between them, they give a pretty complete story of it. So you might want to look into those.
Okay.
It's been wild interviewing these guys because everybody else always wanted to interview the perps, the people who were running the program, and they made them sound like heroes. And you get a completely different story talking to the guys that were there. And there are women included in the group that I've been interviewing.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think they insist on it being just the boys and just keeping that storyline, hard? Why is that?
It's an American sexist thing to protect females. They want to keep us protected and innocent and sheltered and at home.
Mm.
This is our cultural thing that when it was found that Dulce base had 25,000 American women that were being used to make hybrid babies. President Carter had the place attacked. There was a Dulce war. So this was the same time period. So if it was all boys, nobody would get as upset as if there were girls too, because it was involving rape. It was involving mind fracture. It was involving using young girls as young as 6 years old for spying or killing people.
Oh, okay.
It was a horrific place, and it was every bit as bad as what was going on in Dulce. And there were breeding programs, and they would leave the babies with their young mother just long enough for the mother to bond with it and then take it away and give it to somebody else.
Yeah, just like in the Stranger Things. There is an arc there about this. That 11 is actually an experimental baby, and the mother was in the MK Ultra program, and then later went crazy and catatonic, and 11 was taken away and raised separately.
Well, 11 was taken away is why she went crazy and catatonic.
Yeah.
She was told her baby died.
Yeah.
And she knew better.
Yeah.
And the mother could very easily have been one of the Montauk girls, because they would have sex orgies and the girls would get pregnant, and then they would have their baby and the baby would be taken from them. They'd be told it was dead. They'd be told all sorts of lies. They'd be told they could keep it, and then Preston Nichols would put it up for adoption or hand it off to another program. These people in these assets were treated as properties, not as people. And every single one of them has issues.
Yeah, they had a lot of field instability problems from the time they first turned it on, which was about 75, 76, right up through about 79.
That's about right.
And in 79, they had it pretty well solved. But occasionally, they still have breaks. And I know there were occasions where people in hardware went in the tunnel and just disappeared into limbo. I was not that familiar with, but I know that they had it essentially stabilized by 79 because they were using the tunnel to pull in a lot of the kids for the Montauk Boys program from about 79 on.
Well, we were pulling them in, but we were also sending them out.
Yeah, you had to. They had to go back.
Well, it wasn't so much that they had to go back. We were also using them as test subjects to send them out to other planes. We would use them to go to different planes, and basically they were the guinea pigs. We'd send them first,
Yeah.
and if they came back, then when we knew it was safe to go.
If they came back intact, was safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was a big if usually, wasn't it?
That was a big if. A lot of them got lost.
How many do you think we actually lost over the course of time that you were there?
Oh God, I couldn't really tell you. There's hundreds.
Hundreds?
Yeah.
Well, remember the program for the Montauk boys entailed thousands. Actually, up to 83, my guess was about 10,000. Actually, it'll be early in 83, it was about 81.
Was it emotionally hard for you to do this, Larry?
Didn't really think too much about it at the time.
Really?
I mean, I was in charge of getting time travel to work properly, and getting things as safe as we could for our people. And now most of the Montauk boys were like homeless kids and stuff like that. So no, they weren't much to begin with.
You know, they eventually turned to homeless street kids because if something went wrong, they weren't missed. You were already lost, so to speak.
There are that many homeless kids out there?
In New York, Los Angeles, and the other cities, there are thousands of street kids. And consequently, I made that suggestion at some point in the program, stop pulling the kids off Long Island where there's families involved. Homeless street kids, nobody cares.
So, Larry, were you involved in actually getting the kids at all?
Sometimes.
And how would you do it?
Sometimes we pull them in through time travel. Other times, they were just trucked in.
From current time, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So the names you're naming, like Preston and Albilik, is it coming from this group that you've been talking to, the young people?
I've watched a lot of their videos, and the young people talk about them like they're the devil in themselves.
Oh, okay.
They have remembered the name of the general, and some of them have called him on the phone, and
Wow.
he hangs up on them. That's why I'm not naming him in this show, is because I don't want anybody calling him.
Okay,
I mean,
he's still alive, right?
He's still alive.
Wow.
He's retired now, but he's still alive. So there are people that were involved in running this thing that are still very much alive, but they're never gonna face justice. What's the point in bothering them?
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, Al Bielek and Preston Nichols and Duncan Cameron, they all wanted to make a name for themselves. So they went out and did interviews, they wrote books, even made movies. So they made themselves public so they can be discussed. These were pedophiles, they were rapists, they were murderers. They were kidnapping children. How can these people be respected?
I don't know enough about them, but I still believe that they were probably mind controlled themselves.
I can hope they were mind controlled themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I might believe that they remembered much more than they talk about, and they pretend that they only, like Preston said, he only remembered about Montauk way after he was there, and probably it's true. He was probably also, mind wiped and stuff. But I don't know. I don't think it's in their interest to come out if they were perpetrators.
I don't think it is either.
Being conscious of what they've done and just come out and tell the story. I mean, it doesn't add up to me. I mean, I think they were most probably were under some kind of mind control themselves, and they have no idea probably.
Well, we're pretty sure that the general has been mind wiped and has no idea because he's been he's been really cold with these folks. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this is a topic that it's out there. It's going to be out there. We're pretty sure that the actual Phoenix project at Montauk was ended in 2014. And that was because the rogue Draco came and took it over. And I don't know what they are doing, whether they stopped it or what. But
so
as American involvement ended then. They may be running what's taking so much water and electricity.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And I was interested, And I think I guessed why such an interest in Montauk by so many people. And yeah, and they showed it in the video. They said that this is the Earth energetic grid intersection point that
Yeah, it is.
has been there forever. And the Montauk Indians were there, and it was a sacred site. And they talk about the Montauk Pyramid, and it's basically a power spot that is probably very, very important for everybody. And everybody who knows and can identify power spots knows what this place is or can feel it. So
Yeah, you
it's a
can feel
logical
it.
place to do something like this.
I've noticed that where the ley line grids have cross points,
Hmm.
that the military has built bases
Yeah,
at almost every one of them.
yeah.
Now, there's one 12 miles southeast of where I live.
Hmm.
At the moment, there's nothing there. So
Well, nothing there on the surface, or you know,
nothing,
there's nothing there at all.
well, there's nothing there on the surface, and there is a maglev train line that goes beneath it.
Hmm. Okay.
But yeah. But the area is owned by cryptids.
Who exactly?
We think they are Sasquatch,
Okay, the Bigfoot guys.
Bigfoot guys. We think they're the Sasquatch, but there are cryptids in that whole area that kidnap people.
Okay.
And there are lakes and caves that you just don't go near, and they will sound like a baby
Mm.
in danger, and you go to save the baby and you end up in danger yourself.
Wow.
So
So that's
it's
another opening there, interdimensional probably.
yeah, I think they're interdimensional, but I think if you really pay attention to all of the national parks in the United States, that there are cryptids in all of them.
Hmm.
I think that's why they did the national parks, was so humans would not infringe on these people.
Yeah. Wow.
Do
Okay.
you guys have national parks in Russia?
We do. We have big areas here. So yeah, there are national parks that are like specifically called that,
Mhm.
but there's also a lot of land, you know, open space land that, you know, you can land a mothership there and no one will notice. So yeah.
And how often do I get to talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about from your part of the world?
Which is what? What do I know that I'm talking about? If they ask, I don't know anything, Penny. I don't know you.
I had a friend who was she was a very special person to me. She died in 2013. But she found me the word for nut house in Russian. And she said I had to learn that word because I was going to need it, because that was where we were headed.